see a quantum increase, but also the adoption of things like Facebook. I mean, in most of young Indian farmers are onto Facebook. And increasingly, we are starting to think about Facebook as a way to communicate with farmers and not wall paintings, which was the traditional Indian way of building your brand. So we are seeing rural India change in many significant ways, and there can be no better time to have a topic like we have today, which is creating digital pathways for technological growth and development in the Indian farmer context. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jejrikar, for bringing it back to what it takes, which is head, heart, and guts, but more importantly, how we use technology to address basic dignity and help farmers mitigate risk. So with that, I'm delighted to now invite Dr. Danny Shamovitz, Dean of George Wise Faculty of Life Sciences, Director, Manna Center for Plant Sciences from the Tel Aviv University, to talk to us about the role of industry and academia partnership. We've had the pleasure of working with Dr. Shamovitz over the last several years, and each conversation and each engagement has only led us to believe very firmly that if we can emulate the formats of partnership with industry and academia that Israel has put in place, we will see a complete transformation that we're seeing in the Indian landscape. So with that, I'd like to now invite Dr. Shamovitz.
Thank you, Mitu. Mitu basically just gave my talk, because that sums it up. If we can emulate how academia and industry and government work together in Israel, maybe we could do some amazing things here also. But since I do have a few minutes, I'm never one to pass up a microphone. So my dear friend Salil and Mitu and my other friends on the dais, it's a real pleasure for me to be back here in India speaking with you. The first time I came in this format was about 3 years ago, and as you said, it really has developed into an ongoing relationship. So it's really a great pleasure for me to take part in this inaugural session of Digital Pathways in Agriculture. So what does an academic from Israel, a dean of life sciences, not even of agriculture himself, have to do on such a prestigious panel? My wife asked me the same question when she saw what I was coming for, and maybe you can tell her afterwards. You know, on the one side, we have people who influence Indian agriculture every day through your investments and through your companies. And we have people who influence Indian agriculture through policy making and through NGOs and through interactions with the government, all working together to try to feed the farmers' families, and for the farmers to feed India. So, you know, what do I have to do here as an academic between these two? And I'm actually sort of positioned quite strategically actually between the two of people from industry and people from NGOs. I don't know if that was on purpose, but I think it's a nice way of looking at it. And this may be the role that academia can bring. Academia can actually be the bridge between the competing interests of these two spheres of the private sector and the public sector, which don't often talk to each other. Now, you may not realize this. We don't even like to think of ourselves this way, but Israel is actually a really, really small country, a lot smaller than parts of Delhi. And that might be contrary to what you might see on the news, or if you've traveled in Himachal Pradesh, where most of the signs are in Hebrew nowadays because of all the Israeli tourists. My son just came back and he was amazed that you could go into many places in HP and the menus are in Hebrew. But our small size has given us some advantages which could be translatable maybe into India. More specifically, the importance of an open dialogue between academia and industry, and between academia and the government in developing solutions for our world. So while the ultimate goal of academia, and of course Tel Aviv University, Israel's largest and one of the world's top-ranked universities, is to generate and propagate knowledge, our academic programs and our research is colored by innovation and the desire to have a positive effect on the world. So it's not surprising that we interact almost seamlessly with both large and small industries. Maybe it's something in the air in Tel Aviv that breeds innovation and typing of risk-taking, but somehow or another, Tel Aviv University is ranked number 9 globally and number 1 outside of the world in generating venture capital by both its graduates and its professors. Outside of the United States, I meant, number 1. And much of this venture capital goes into either the agrotech industry or into the information and cyber industries. And it's actually the meshing of these two was what we're seeing in precision agriculture. So clearly the subject of this meeting is relevant for both academia and for industry. So despite our huge differences in sizes, Israel and India, though, have much to offer each other, of course. And I think maybe that's now so obvious that it goes without saying. The meetings of our President Rivlin here this past week, and he'll be here tomorrow, I understand, both with your Prime Minister and your President over the past few days, really highlight how close this relationship has become. So while I mentioned the Hebrew menus and the Hebrew signs in HP, I should maybe mention a little bit about the Indian influence on Israel. In Tel Aviv University over the past few years, we have a growing number of Indian students and Indian postdoctoral fellows. I have 2 postdoctoral researchers from India in my own lab. I asked one of them after his first weekend in Israel, I said, "How was your first week in Israel?" He said, "Oh, it was great." I said, "What did you do?" He said, "Oh, I played cricket." I said, "We don't have cricket in Israel." He said, "Oh, yes, you do." I said, "What?" He said, "Oh, yeah, there's a league." I said, "Well, who did you play cricket with?" And what was the answer? The other Indians. And it actually ends up that there's a Tel Aviv University cricket team, which my student became the captain of, and they won the championship of all the universities, and so that's an important thing of the influence of India on Israel, that you can actually come and now we have a cricket culture. But more than that, it's influenced our science, and it's influenced the output. Our science output has gotten higher as these Indian students have been meshed within our universities. We saw it initially as in capacity building for Indian students and for Indian researchers. But the Indian students and Indian researchers have also increased our own capacity to do science and to do research and to do innovation. And when they bring that back here, I think that will have a logarithmic effect on the way that things work here. So getting back to agriculture, considering our country's expertise in computers and IT, our commitment to feeding our own people, it is clear that we have much to offer each other in terms of precision agriculture. If you look again at Israel, only 20, if you're really pushing it, 25% of Israel is agriculturally relevant from a classical point of view. Yet we produce more than 90% of our own food needs, and upwards of 70% of all of our horticultural exports come from the desert. Now, this doesn't make sense. It's not even logical. There's a word in Hebrew, or in Yiddish actually, which is called chutzpah. I don't know if you have a similar word in Hindi or in other Indian languages. It's roughly translated as nerve. Having the nerve to do something that you really shouldn't even attempt. But if you have that nerve, you could do wonderful, amazing things. And so the seamless interaction between Israeli universities and Israeli industry and government can be a paradigm for promoting similar interactions in India. And of course, our own research is looking for application in larger markets like that you provide here in India. So lastly, in closing, I want to thank, you'll hear much more about these technologies from people who are actively involved in researching them in later sessions. I want to personally thank Mr. Singhal, my friend Salil, for enabling me to be involved in CIA and Indian agriculture. It's been a really eye-opening experience. I hope this is a continuing experience. This is, I think, now my 3rd visit here. Your vision for seeing the potential for Israel as a breeding ground for innovation, which can influence Indian industry and academia, as a paradigm that I would like to see multiplied many times over. Thank you very much.